I'm Andre, and this is Osteo. It is the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. Holy shit. I'm actually quite impressed with myself that I stuck to it and have been doing this for a whole year. When I first recorded, I honestly thought that this would just kind of disappear within the whole world of yarny podcasts on YouTube, but yeah, I'm honestly so surprised and love that other people are interested in what I have to say and follow along, so thank you. Yes, it is a beautiful sunny day in Greater Sudbury. And I'm probably going to be distracted by the window. Usually it's shuttered, but I could not give up this beautiful sunlight that's coming in, which we have not seen for quite a while. Okay, number one, let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing my black bat sweater. This is a design by Ariana Frasca. It's one that I tested. There are all kinds of different options that you can choose for your own. I did the short neck. You can do like a turtleneck. I did kind of 3/4-ish sleeves. You can do your sleeves as long as you want, including short sleeves. And mine is kind of a full-length sweater as opposed to a cropped one. But there's also options to continue that into a dress of varying lengths. I knit mine using the frosted stitch yarn. It was a flake, but it was basically a development batch precursor to the black bat colorway. Okay. Yes. So I am still working on getting through some whips. I have finished one. So the main thing that I was talking about last episode was my branches socks, the socks that appear to have been cursed. They are now done. So I don't have to deal with this ever again. And like, it's not any complaint about the pattern. The pattern is perfectly fine, and especially once blocked, the lace opens up. It really is a beautiful design. It's just, I don't know. I think it was the yarn that was cursed. Everything seemed to go wrong. It was just not a match for me. But I still persisted and got it done. The yarn used here is Patton's Croy FX in copper colors, which gives this really nice gradient. They don't match. That's fine. So these are going to go to my dad's wife. Her birthday isn't until October, but it's nice to have them done, and I don't have to be knitting at the last minute to get her socks done for this year. During January, I was also working on my moving forward wrap. So a pattern by Denise Byron. I am knitting this out of a Pirate Winter box from the Frosted Stitch. It's getting quite big. So when I last showed this one, I think I was on this brown stripe. So I've done quite a bit of progress on it. I considered continuing to work on this one into February, but ultimately mostly decided not to. Actually, I think this project is going to stay in my office here in case I need some emergency knitting, because there was an incident and I was stuck here not really knowing what to do with myself, but talk about that later. Okay. So I'm still trying to cycle through patterns so I don't get bored with things, but still putting the emphasis on whips. So knowing myself, I know that I need to have a balance of something that's easy to work on compared to something that's a little more complicated. And I definitely need something that's more portable. That wrap is starting to get to the point where it is difficult to carry around. So, the two main whips that I'm working on, really the only two whips as in long existing projects that I'm working on in the month of February are another pair of socks. So these are the Manderley socks by Kate Poe. I believe I started these in September of 2023. And the yarn I'm using here is another frosted stitch. I don't think it's a color that was officially released. It was the Eleanor colorway. So it's kind of this tonal gray. And then the sock pattern has a picot edge and this fun little stitch pattern. So when I resumed it, I was still working on the gusset. So I've since progressed on that, and I'm perhaps maybe halfway through the foot. And this is the first sock. But somehow I'm at a somewhat similar spot as where I was on the branches socks last time. I have all of these socks where I'm stuck on the first sock. So it's not really second sock syndrome. I'm not even finishing the first sock and then abandoning it. So I would very much like to finish the pair of socks. It's also fun because I've been digging out some old project bags that I haven't seen in a while. This is from Fate's Threads, which I don't think exists anymore. She has such cute bags. Okay, other thing I'm working on. This I've shown on the podcast before, but it is the Who Ya Gonna Shawl by Lyrical Knits. So I've got two pieces here. Whoop. Is this the correct side? There we go. So this is 1/2. And this is the half that I'm working on. I am on clue 5 of 6. And clue 6 includes seaming this to the other half. So I don't have that much left, really. But it is, you do have to follow the charts quite closely, and obviously each section is quite different from the other. And there's a mix of like textured stuff and color work and whatnot. Very fun, and Lyrical Knits put so much thought into, especially her mystery knit-alongs. She's got fun little blurbs in front of each pattern. So this one is Ghostbusters inspired, and I'm of course using some Ghostbusters inspired colorways by the Frosted Stitch, plus some others. This one here is Ecto 1. Turn down the brightness a bit. This is Ghostbusters. This is Lore. And this is Isolation. So I went with a very kind of green tone palette, but I love it. And with Ecto 1, you get these fun little blips of neon yellow and red. So this is the other thing that I'm working on this month. Not to say that it's the only two things. I am doing a sample knit for Krista of the Frosted Stitch. That's not it. This is it. So, it's a little scrunched up, but this is the Fossil Frenzy cowl by Mary Hunt, or Hunt Handmade. You can see how, yeah, the dinosaurs. So I test knit the Fossil Frenzy Junior. So it was a tee, or I did a long sleeve shirt with similar charts, but there are others in the cowl that weren't in the Fossil Frenzy Junior, and even I think the Fossil Frenzy Junior had different charts depending on what size you were doing. Anyways, I get to play with more dinosaurs on this one. Nice Stegosaurus there. So this sample is being made out of Antique, which is this coppery orange. And then the background color here is Renaissance. Just sort of sandy with pinks and blues. I'm going to be doing another colorwork cowl, also by Mary Hunt, as a sample after I finish this one. So again, samples don't count. So it's not a whip that's going to languish in my collection. And because I couldn't resist, I decided to start another scrappy project. 2 years ago I had done a scrappy book shawl, which I still have not finished the I-cord order to, but I saw someone on Instagram, and the name escapes me, but somebody was doing granny square, a granny square blanket with the colors of each granny square representing each book that was read. So I took inspiration from that. I've never knit I've never made a granny square. In fact, my crochet skills are pretty limited. But I had found what was called the lockdown blanket that was hexies, and it seemed a little more accessible to me. So I have started a hexie blanket with colors inspired by books I've read. So I've only read 2 books so far, but there are my hexies for it. They are far from perfect. Again, I don't know much about crochet, and part of those limitations is I don't necessarily know, is this what it should look like, and does this make sense? So I think the second hexie, this one, is a little bit better than this one, but hey, whatever. I liked this because there's join as you go, and I know myself, and I know that if I do a bunch of squares or hexies or whatever, seaming them all together is going to be a big obstacle. And this is kind of fun. It's not too wild. It was a good coincidence that I used 2 colors in common between these two. I am not trying to be exact with the colors matching the books. I'm going with as close as I can from my scrap stash. From what I've measured so far, each use of color here was about 1 gram. So I used really, really small amounts of yarn, which is great because I've got a ton of scrap. So these, well, I'll talk about my my Canada Reads reading, but these were 2 Canada Reads shortlist books. Watch Out for Her, this one, and this is Etta and Otto and Russell and James. So for these, that outer color has mostly been the main color of the book cover. The middle one was from writing, and in this one there was somebody in a yellow raincoat, and this one also had red writing. Should I have started another large-scale scrappy project? Probably not. But I do have a shit ton of scraps. So, is it justified? Maybe. Either way, it's my problem now. So, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. It is nice for me though to work on my crochet skills a bit, because I am sort of, as I'm doing these sort of troubleshooting things, I think I've learned in between making the first one and the second one, so the second one seems a bit better, and hopefully as I continue I'll see more improvement as I do more of these hexies. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be focusing on this month, which already seems to be flying by. It certainly doesn't help that February is such a short month to start with. I don't know, time is weird. Like somehow I don't understand how a year has gone by, and yet last week was like the longest week of all time. I don't know, whatever. I am neither a physicist nor a philosopher, so these are just not discussions I am qualified to have. But time is weird. Okay. So that's what I'm working on. I really want to finish those socks. It would be really nice to finish that Who You Gonna Shawl too. But whatever, I'm not gonna set unrealistic expectations for myself. Spinning, I had shown all of those bits and bobs of my Akara Rose yarn advent or fiber advent and the other braids that I had in the same base. I have finished one skein from that. So this was the combo of the full braid plus 4 of the little mini braids from the fiber box. So clearly they mostly had green tones plus a bit of copper. I managed to get this kind of a sport DK-ish weight. It made for like a really nice gradient, mostly because of how I spun those 4 minis. I don't know what this is going to grow up to be. It's mostly going to depend on how well it jives with the other spins I make out of this batch, which, given that I'm planning one of them to be a 3-ply, I don't think they'll all go together. So I have started now. There was the other set of 2-ply that I was going to do that's in like shades of purples. I have started on the full braided that again on my e-spinner. I'm really itching to do something on my wheel though. I miss my wheel. Like the e-spinner is really fun, but I like my wheel too. So I might start something with that. The other day I had ordered a mystery 1 kilo of fiber from Chaotic Fibers, who's based in British Columbia. I did get it in, and there is so much fun stuff within there. I had considered doing kind of an unboxing of it, but then decided, especially because it's a mystery box and like I don't know, it's not labeled what all of the fibers are, like what content they are. I don't think it would be particularly interesting. It would mostly be me pulling it out and saying, oh, this is pretty, and oh, that kind of looks like this. I think maybe it's that, so yeah, I skipped it. But shit ton of fiber, and I didn't necessarily need more. But perhaps I should start one of those on my wheel. Yeah. Maybe tonight. Maybe tonight I will. Okay. And I also have quite a lot of yarn right now. Now, not all of these were purchased even this year. Because of the Canada Post strike, I had a bit of a backlog in stuff that all came in the first few weeks of January. So I have some stuff that even was ordered in November, some in December. So maybe I'll start with those. So the ones that had previously been ordered were the Flu Fiber Spooky Yarn Clubs. The November one was Nadja. So Nadja, the character from What We Do in the Shadows. And this is beautiful. Obviously I love purples, but so perfect for Nadja. I got 2 skeins of DK. When I order these, I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason as to why I decided DK over fingering. I just decide, yeah, this month I'm going DK. I don't know. The December color was Day of the Dead. I got that one on fingering, and it is this really fun, bright, speckly yarn. Very kind of funfetti. There's blue, there's purple, there's orange, there's pink, there's green. Very joyous, very celebratory. Okay, so those were purchased before the new year. And I am tracking like how much yarn is coming in and how much yarn I'm using, so those don't count. Although I have done some damage. As you may have noticed, I cannot resist a mystery, and Stitch Noir was selling mystery packs and included like a little color palette for each of her mystery packs. So I got a 3-skein color palette, or 3-skein fingering weight mystery box or bag, using a or under a color palette that was kind of very much me, like very jewel tones, purples, and yeah. And what I got was just perfect. Like, I love all of these. These are probably yarns I would have picked up myself. So this one here is Abracadabra. I love that green. I love a tealy green. Yeah. This is Stormy Berry, which has another great green and some purple and blue. And then this one's Berry Picking, which again, similar colors. We've got more pinkish red in there. Yeah. And last episode I talked about the Frosted Stitch Monthly Club. I do finally have the Amelia yarn. So this was last month's colorway. So the theme is expeditions, and this is the Amelia Earhart inspired one, and it comes with this really cute little stitch marker. Let's tone that down here, of a plain by Muster pattern. I don't have the stitch marker yet for the February one, but I wanted to give a little sneak peek to anyone who may be interested in getting it. The February inspiration is The Secret, which from what I understand is a story that was also a treasure hunt, and that there was like an actual, or perhaps multiple actual treasures that people could get. Whether I'm familiar with the story, the yarn is beautiful. I love this blue. So this vibrant, well, there's more than one shade of blue, but I really like this blue. And then we've got some goldish coppery color and some green in there. So there will be a stitch marker that goes with this too, but Krista was dropping off a big shipment of yarn to me, not a big shipment. These two plus some yarn for samples. So yeah, got it all at once. So this is still available for order, I think until February 10th. The March colorway is also very, very pretty. It's more kind of subdued, but yeah, very nice. That is it for yarn purchases. Yeah, I'm getting full into my Canada Reads madness. I talked about this last year, and for anyone who's not familiar, Canada Reads is like this book competition, battle of the books that the CBC hosts every year. I think this has been going on for easily 14 years. For as long as I've known about it, I've been reading every one of the finalists. So they pick 5 finalists, and then a celebrity of sorts champions a book, and they kind of have debates, and each episode one book gets voted off until there's one winner. Yeah, I go a little bit crazy over it. I have now finished 2 of the 5 finalists. So the first one I read was Watch Out for Her by Samantha Bailey. It's more kind of a thriller. It's in a similar vein to like the Ruth Ware type of books. I don't want to give too much away. it is kind of sad. It is sort of, it's not a happy ending. There's certainly a twist. It was really captivating. Like, I did not want to put the book down. I read it really, really quickly. That's partly why I picked that one first. When I picked it, the shortlist had not been announced yet, so I was picking a book off of the long list, and I knew that the shortlist would be coming out soon, so I picked something that I figured I would get through quickly, and I lucked out, and it did end up being on the shortlist. I actually have pretty good success at picking out, like, the first book I read is usually before the shortlist is announced, and I tend to be pretty good at picking one that will end up being on the list. Yeah. It's not, like, looking at the long list, there was one that I thought for sure was going to be shortlisted, and it was not. But anyways, as you can see, I get way too invested in Canada Reads. Okay. Second book I read was Etta and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper. It was also a fairly quick read. It was really cute, kind of sad. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's really interesting how it's written, because there's kind of jumps between different characters and jumps between time and space, and there are points where kind of some characters sort of meld together as, like, I think as a technique to kind of illustrate how close and enmeshed they are with each other, but yeah. So, as we are right now, I actually just finished Etta and Otto and Russell and James last night. I'm waiting on the other 3 books to come in from the library, so at least, I guess for the time being, gosh darn, I'm gonna have to continue the 2 books that I was reading before, the All That Is Wicked and Maya Tichuba. That's okay. I put them on hold because, again, I'm way too invested in Canada Reads. What else is going on? As I said, yeah, last week was weird. On Monday, we had a shelter in place here at the university. Somebody had called in a threat, and while that threat was being investigated, people were required to stay in place, and I was in my office at the time. So yes, that is why we now have a office knitting project that's going to stay here. Not that I expect we'll have more incidents like that, but certainly I'm sure it'll be handy if I have a particularly boring and lengthy Zoom meeting to sit through. So no harm in that. But yeah, the shelter in place was stressful, I'll say that, and not something I've experienced before. I know it's something that's a little more common in some other places, but it certainly highlighted some vulnerabilities at the level of the university and at the level of communications and organization. Anyways, term is well underway. Like, I have a midterm next week. The week after that, we're on rating week. My undergrad thesis students are finishing up a lot of their actual work. I had to come into campus to take bones out of the oven, because that is a totally normal thing to say. We had bones that had been defleshed, and we have kind of this drying oven to take most of the organic content out of them because the bones are going to go for DNA analysis, so we need to crush them first. It is harder to crush bones when they're full of organic content because that's stuff like collagen, which makes it very elastic, so not great for if you're trying to crush it. Yeah. So much of what I do sounds extremely weird when I say it out loud. So yeah, it's wild that we're already 1 month into the term and like it's going by fast. I don't really have anything planned for reading week. Of course, reading week isn't so much a break for faculty. I think I already have 2 meetings planned for that week, but I am hoping that maybe I can get away for a little weekend trip or something. Or at worst, have a day where I just like sit and knit. Yeah, or spin. Anyways, this sunlight is such a treat. I am very much looking forward to the spring. I'm not a big winter person. I don't necessarily hate winter, but I much prefer weather where I can sit outside. Yeah. So it's definitely not sitting outside weather here in Northern Ontario. Okay, I'm rambly. I'm gonna stop that here. I hope that the new year has been treating you well. Thank you for anyone who has tuned in. If you've been here from the very beginning or if you are fairly new, I'm happy to have you join me on my crafty adventures. Have a great day, and I will be back again next month.